Hey, fourth grade, this is Mr. Christofferson again, and I'm here to show you how to compare fractions. In this video, we're going to be looking at three basic rules that really come into handy when comparing fractions. I'm going to be using my fraction strips. There is a link on the Google document for the fourth grade lesson plans that has a resource where you can print and make your own, or a video on YouTube that shows you how to make fraction strips using 2 sheets of paper. So we're going to get right into it. So when thinking about comparing fractions, I always think about three really important rules. And that first rule is when the numerators are the same, the smaller denominator is the larger fraction. So to show that I have the comparison here, 1/2 and 1/3, and I'm going to use my fraction strips. Here I have 1/2, and here I have 1/3. Okay, and I'm seeing that both numerators are 1. So again, when the numerators are the same, so I have 1 and 1. The smaller denominator is the larger fraction. So if I put these next to each other, I can clearly see that the 1/2 fraction is greater than the 1/3 fraction. And that's because when we think about how we're breaking apart these fractions, the denominator is telling us how many pieces it's broken into. So it's taking up the same amount of space. These are all representing one whole, but it's been broken into smaller and smaller pieces depending on the size of the denominator. So here, my numerators were the same, and I then look at the denominator. 2 is smaller than 3, or 2 is less than 3. So that tells me that the 1/2 fraction is larger, okay? And again, I can clearly see that by using my fraction strips, 1/2 and 1/3. Jumping down to the second rule, it says when the denominators are the same, the larger numerator is the larger fraction. And this one is pretty straightforward. For this one, I'm going to use fifths. So I'm comparing 1/5 to 3/5. Okay. I hope I'm getting all of my fractions out of order here. So here I have 1/5, and here I have 3/5. 3 groups of 1/5. So my denominators are the same, which tells me I look at the larger numerator is the larger fraction. 3 is larger, or 3 is greater than 1. So 3/5 is the larger fraction. And if I compare it, I can see that 3/5 is greater than 1/5. And the last rule that we want to look at is we want to think about comparing fractions to 1/2. So this aligns really closely to the math page that you had today on the Google Doc. And so I'm going to start with 2/6 here, and I want to compare it to 1/2. So when I think about fractions that have a denominator of 6, I want to think of what is half of 6. So in room C5, we talk about karate chopping 6 in half. And I know that half of 6 is 3. So I'm going to drop down 1/3, 1/6 here. So here I have 3/6. And I know that 3/6 is the same as 1/2. So if my comparison is only having 2/6, it has to be less than 1/2. Okay? I'm going to show that again using 8ths. So I might use 5/8 now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I wanted to compare here, I'm comparing 5/8 to 1/2. And so if I think about my denominator is 8, my brain is saying, what is half of 8? And I know that 4 is half of 8. That is, here are my 4/8 showing that it's equal to 1/2. So if I had an additional 1/8 piece, it must be greater than 1/2. Thanks for watching. Hope you're doing well. Remember to get outside, enjoy the rain, enjoy the fresh air, play with a dog, play with some animals, read a book, have fun, wash your hands. Let your teachers know if we have any questions. We are here to support you. My might be a good idea to write those 3 rules down in a math notebook where you can access it. This is something that's going to be coming up throughout our fraction unit. So the quicker we can learn those and start applying those, the better off we'll be. Have a good one, guys.